Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Veterinary Life Coach podcast. If it's your first time here, welcome. This is the podcast where we talk about all things veterinary medicine, self-development, and better mental health. Today, I have a wonderful guest for you. I met her at the VMX this year, and I'm excited that she agreed to come on the podcast. Her name is Dr. Sharon French, and she's the founder and CEO of vetavailability.com. She is a fellow of the Academy of Veterinary Dentistry and has worked in veterinary dentistry and at a critical care facility for 23 years. Welcome to the podcast, Sharon. I'm thrilled to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
Did I get that all right?
You sure did.
Awesome. I'm thrilled to have you. I'm so excited that I met you. And I'm excited to see what we talk about today.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
I'm thrilled. So the first thing I always ask is veterinarians to tell me their veterinary story. So you can start wherever you want, when you were a kid or whatever your veterinary story entails. I like to hear it all.
I'm one of those types that always knew that they wanted to be a veterinarian, other than a brief stint thinking I was going to be a Shakespearean actress. And then I decided maybe that was a poor choice for me.
I love that.
Slipped back to veterinary medicine. So I went to vet school in Guelph and graduated. And in sort of the first 5 years, I guess, I was lucky to get in good practices with good mentors, and fell into the opportunity to do a residency in dentistry back in the day, because I graduated.
Yeah, that's kind of unheard of, right? Aren't they residencies really hard to get now?
Well, I think we need more veterinary dentists, and we need more veterinarians.
Absolutely
Period, as you know. It was an alternate pathway residency, and there were 6 of us who went through all at the same time, and I was really lucky and I thought, wow, this is kind of cool stuff, because we didn't really get taught very much in school at that time.
No, not at all.
And so I kind of liked the instant fix and the instant gratification of your patients were, not feeling great and smelly, and at the end of the day, they were better. And one of the things I really liked doing was putting broken faces back together. I ended up being invited to join the VEC in Toronto, which is a 24-hour referral and critical care facility with many specialty groups. And that's where I've sort of spent my time since 2001. So I pretty aware of how ER and referral and specialty works. And during the time of the pandemic, I was kind of horrified to see what was happening to us as a profession. Everybody got a pet because they didn't want to be alone, and there just aren't enough of us. And then people were just burning out left, right, and center. It was just sort of a really critical time, and I always have had a problem, which my staff hate, but I have a problem saying no. And we were seeing people.
I'm with you. I do too.
People were desperate to find care, and we were having patients coming from hours and hours and hours away, and hearing the horror stories where a seizuring dog couldn't be seen, and and just terrible things happening. And
yeah,
to
nobody's fault.
No, it's not.
During COVID, we went from 4 doctors down to just me. We went from 4 to 1.
Yeah,
it was just crazy. It was a crazy time.
It was. And so, I'm watching the stress on the ER doctors and receptionists, because everybody became so angry about everything. And, and it was just, people were taking the brunt of that. And, when you have an angry client, it's hard to shrug that off. And reception usually gets the brunt of it, and then the doctors and the techs. And so it was affecting everybody. And I thought, boy, there has to be a better way to do this, where people aren't making 18 phone calls to find care somewhere. And, I had referrings saying to me that, it was taking them for no matter what specialty group or no matter even just overnight care, it would take them on average, 2 hours and maybe 6 phone calls to find somebody who was able to take. And so the story was that they would phone and they'd tell the story to reception, and then reception would put them on hold, and then they'd speak to the doctor.
The ER
And
doc
then,
or the ER tech, and then you
yeah,
get
and
put
then
you
the story
on. Yeah.
again.
I
They
was
go
in
through,
general practice, so I did all that.
yeah, so you know the story, and it's like then you go through the whole story again, and then they go, we can't take you. We don't have any IV pumps, or we don't have any cages. We have a big clinic and we ran out of cage space. And there were times where we just didn't have fluid pumps. It was insane.
Yeah, you had to
So I
count the
thought,
drops like the old days, right?
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
I
I've done that a
remember
few
that. I'm
times.
old enough.
Figure out how many drops per second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, there has to be a better way. And I'm thinking, well, what if there was a map that people could look at that was a geographic area that had sort of little colored buttons, that icons that would say who was available in real time. And I thought, well, so I looked to see if somebody was doing that. I thought somebody must be doing that.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing it. So I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try and put this thing together. So over a period of time, because I'm still working at my day job,
Full-time
and
job and then starting a business, right?
well, I thought, you know what, if somebody, we have to do it. We have to do something to help. And so the site was developed with a bunch of people who are smart techie people, and with veterinarians sort of chiming in about what would be helpful and what wouldn't. And so voila, we have vetavailability.com. And the plan is, the way this site should work is that anybody in North America, whether you're a person traveling with your pet or you're looking for local help, you can go onto the site and you can select for 4 different categories of care, although we are going to have to add exotics because I learned that at VMX.
Yeah. I was
And
exotics.
yeah.
There are less people that will take exotics on emergency, but there are some.
Yeah. And so, you can search for your specialty, you can search for primary care, you can search for urgent care because we have urgent care clinics now. And, palliative, the palliative folks said to me, Sharon, you gotta get us on there because we're important and we're urgent as well. And so,
Right.
so then you click on the category that you're looking for and you get a map of, you can select the radius, and colored icons of member clinics show up, and they're either red, which is restricted, or orange, partially restricted, or green, come on down. So the owner or veterinarian, because if you're a primary care vet and you're looking for overnight care and you want to just get a global view of who's open and who's not,
Right.
you
Right.
can
So you
just
don't
see,
make 6 phone calls.
right. You can just eyeball excuse me, you can just eyeball the map and go, okay, you know where everybody is. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to go here first because they're green. I may have a chance of getting my patient seen. So it cuts down the number of phone calls. That an owner can click on an icon. You get driven to the clinic page within the site, so which has all your details, and you can change your status at a moment's notice. It's just a click of the mouse. And then there's special instruction because everybody does something a little different. Some people are like, here's our patient onboarding app. Some people will go, do not come without calling first, and so there's a little bit of SEO. There's links to the clinic's website, which helps SEO because I've learned about that. And
You
the other
probably had to
thing,
learn a lot to do this, I would think. I can't
it's just
imagine
like,
starting a
yeah.
whole
And
program like
my children are not home. They're not teenagers anymore to help me with this kind of stuff.
that.
So I
Right, right.
found
Yeah.
people who are gifted. And then
Yeah.
the other thing we did is we put in a how urgent is my problem page, because people often don't understand the significance of a symptom. And that kind of came to life because of one of my kids was working part-time while going to school, and just to help out because she's great with people. And she got this phone call about people had a Frenchie and had been spayed a week before, and she hadn't been eating for a few days, and now she was breathing real funny. And, my kid said, well, you got to come. We're actually restricted, but you're the closest to us. So you must come. We will take you. Just get
Right.
in the car and call me back and we'll get your details while, if somebody else is with you and then while you're driving. And, the comment was, well, I have to go to the bank. I have to get my clothes. I got to change my clothes. And so by the time they arrived, they thought the dog was actually asleep in the back in the car. And my kid ran out to get the dog, and the dog was dead.
That's
And so she
horrible.
said to me, Mom, people don't understand. So you got to do something that
No,
maybe
they
some
don't. They have no idea. It's,
So
yeah, that's so
we
sad.
broke down symptoms in terms of these are red symptoms. You need to
Right.
like be doing something.
Oh,
And
now, yeah.
yeah, so the site does not charge owners because we know that clients are pretty upregulated and worried about the cost of veterinary medicine.
Right.
Eventually, we may need to charge clinics. People ask me that, how do you support it?
Right.
Well, we won't be charging anybody until we get the site loaded. This site is designed to reduce stress, to manage clients' expectation, and to reduce the number of phone calls people have to make and I've lived this on the other side. I had a call from my lawyer one night on a Sunday night, and he's a big power guy. And I'm going, oh, what are you phoning me for? What's happening?
Yeah, what's up?
Your voice is really high pitched. What's going on? And he was walking with his kids, and the neighbor's dog was attacked. It's a little white dog attacked by a Rottweiler on the street, and nobody would take them. And he said, you got to help me. And I said, okay. And then I started making phone calls. We got a critical care to at least assess and make sure the dog wasn't going to die or needed to be euthanized. And then they agreed to just, initially stabilize, and then went it to another overnight facility. And then it came back to another facility for surgery the next day. So 3 places, but we all came together to get that dog help,
Yeah.
And so
And otherwise, it probably wouldn't have gotten any help. And the people
no,
would have
and
been frustrated
everybody,
and sad. And
yeah, everybody was so distressed. And he said to me, girlfriend, you told me about this idea of yours. He said, get going on it. So
yeah,
it's, you know, that's where we're at, and it's nobody's fault. But what it requires is everybody, the more clinics that go on, the better it is. And
right, right.
so it's kind of asking kumbaya for people who compete a little bit. But you know what? There's so much work, really. We're not really competing
Mm-mm.
for business, and it's, everybody's pretty maxed out. And when you look at waiting lists, and so that's pretty much what the the site's about. And I'm just at the stage where I'm sort of introducing to the veterinary public. So that's why one of the reasons why I was at
So,
VMX to
yeah,
try
your
and,
first time at the BMX with this, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then I will be in Vegas.
Oh,
So,
good. Well, have fun. I wish I was going. I'm going to Vegas in March with my friends, so I didn't want to go twice, but that's a great conference. I've been there many times.
well, it's been a
And
long time since I've been
wonderful.
there, but
Yeah.
anyway, I'm looking forward to it. But so that's what it is. In some ways, my give back project. I thought I had something that might help, and
Yes.
we're pretty open to making it work for people. And now it's just a question of getting veterinarians to sign on, and asking veterinarians to do one more thing in their day is not an easy task. But the site to go on, it's pretty, plug and play. We try and make it as easy, because I was my brain that we were working with. So I said,
It has
if
to
I'm
be
doing this, it's
immediate
got to be
proof, right?
easy. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it would have
Right.
to be well, for most clients. I mean, if it's going to be client driven. So you didn't want to be an entrepreneur, and just because you had this great idea, now you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that, because I know a lot of people listen to my show. I do have a lot of entrepreneurs on because they interest me, and I have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit. So tell us about that journey. Like, how did you go from working full time and to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to start this whole business?
Well, it was a scary thing, and I was hoping that somebody else would do it, because I'm supposed to be
This is a great
retired.
idea. Someone should do this. That we think that all the time, right?
And then nobody was doing it. And then so my husband actually said, well, honey, if you think you've got something that's going to help, he says, then you should do it. And I put your money where your mouth is. And then I was like, okay, but that means I'm not retiring, and he was like, oh. Well, all right. So, that's how we started. And I just got connected to some um, web people and who sort of understood my vision and my fear. And, and they didn't know veterinary medicine too well, but we sort of worked through stuff over. It took quite a while to kind of piece it together and made things as simple and as logical as I thought we could make them. And so it is not my world, but I've had lots of help. And the one encouraging and gratifying thing is that everybody who's on the front line looks at it and, says, oh, what a great idea. This is going to help. This could help. So it's our we haven't sort of done too much on the Facebook page for people yet because I wanted to get veterinarians introduced to the site and starting to load on the site. And but it's hard. And certainly um, you know veterinarians are not always the decision makers anymore in their practice. So if there's many
So now you're
layers of
working with
different.
corporations, trying to get them to
And
buy in.
I would say that NVA Ethos, their critical care people and specialty clinics have agreed to allow their clinics on.
Okay, great.
That was big because, and they were very helpful. They walked me through some cybersecurity stuff. They made some suggestions. They basically said, well, don't do it just for us. But I'm going, well, but they helped me make a better kind of product because they wanted two-step verification, which is everything now. And
Right.
they gave me a whole list of things that they thought would be helpful. And so we adapted those. And so I have to say, for the folks that have come on are the ones that have vision and can see that it's going to help. Now we're trying to get Toronto as a proof of concept for people, because a lot of people are, well, how do you know it'll work? I mean, I
Right.
know it should work. There's no reason for
Right.
it not to work. The only thing we need
Well,
to
but
do.
when you start using it, I'm sure there'll be some glitches here and there, or
Yeah,
people, if the hospital side doesn't keep it up to date for
I
their own benefit, then they're gonna mess things up, right?
well, it is to their own benefit to keep them updated, because we
Right.
know how unhappy clients can be and how social media can reflect that unhappiness to, fairly or unfairly. That is the way of the world. And so it is in their best interest to keep it updated. If it doesn't, if sites, primary care will either be, yes, we're accepting new patients, or no, we're not. And that can change too because of staffing. Sometimes people are sick, or you don't have a vet for a
Right.
Saturday, so you've got to
Right.
close. So you can change it
So
instantly on the
your
site.
general practices can be included to
Yeah.
take new patients if a client gets on there and says, my dog has a laceration and my hospital's too busy, they're turning me away, or a bad ear, or I don't know, whatever. So a general practitioner can say we're available
Yes.
for those kind of cases. Yeah, that's amazing. That's going to be so valuable.
Well, and I think too, like for primary care, whether they flip back and forth and how frequently isn't such a big worry for me. It's
Right.
mostly for critical care and urgent care. So if they never change their status, or if it doesn't change within a period of time, and it varies with the um, sort of how big the facility is and what they do, then I get a little message. And then if
Okay.
I get a little message, then I'll have a little conversation. I'll reach out and say, are we okay? What's
Yeah.
happening? I mean,
Yeah.
I do know there's one, because of staffing, they're restricted, but they do have a thing on their site saying, just please call first.
Right.
And I know why they do that, because they've really struggled with staffing for overnight,
Right.
and they're just in evenings and weekends ER. So, we just want people to, not be stressed by it. And when I was speaking with some of the uh, not NBA, but other corporate types, they were like, well, how are you going to police it? And I'm going, I don't, if you have talked to any receptionist, and you know any receptionist well, they're going to tell you they want to manage client expectations. And if they can avoid a phone call that says, what do you mean you're not taking new patients?
Right,
Or,
right.
then they're going to do
Yeah,
that because it's
yeah,
better for them. They're better for their mental health. Because we
right.
all know we always like to be liked, all of us, and
It's a
and
human thing, right? We want everyone to like us.
that's right. And when somebody is displeased with you, and then, I mean, it's hard to you carry that. You can say
Hmm.
it, but I don't know anybody really who doesn't take it to heart a little bit.
Right, right. So
It's
the idea is to reduce the amount of phone calls that are coming into the hospital looking for care because people can just go on there and see who's taking new patients. It would also reduce the time and energy of the general practitioner when they're trying to find overnight care, urgent care, transfer a patient, whatever it may be, because we do that all the time for overnight care. Um, so it will reduce client complaints.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's just designed to kind of smooth the waters a little bit. You know, I
right.
I had I had a conversation with a primary care vet in the presence of one of their management people. And she was telling me about how long it took her. She had three patients that were, it was a terrible day, it was a full moon or something. And she needed three
Happens.
patients overnight. And she said, I took 3 hours to get on the phone trying to, and I said to her, and looking over at her boss and going, imagine what she could have been doing in that time, like maybe doing some vaccine appointments, which we don't have time to do, or maybe
Yeah,
even going home on time. How about going home
right.
on time?
Right. Yeah. And making more money in the process.
That's right. So
Time
there
and
was a
money
little
for
light
this.
bulb that went on there. So
Yeah. Yeah. That is truly amazing. So, and it's going to be all of North America.
yeah,
So the US and Canada.
the site is in English, French, and Spanish, just to make it a little bit easier for folks.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And
yeah,
was that your original intent or when
yeah.
you first started, it was a Canada only thing or?
Because
So you'll start it locally because it's not actually working yet, right?
oh no, it is working.
It
It's
is.
just it's up, it's live. Yes, we
Oh,
have
okay.
we have
I
some.
went to the website, but I didn't try it obviously because I had no reason to, but
Well, we had some folks in Florida sign up while they were there, and some people in Ohio, and some urgent care. So it's just starting to
gotcha.
go. Yeah, but
So
we're
the
just
job right now is to try to get veterinary hospitals on board.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
Because I mean, in Michigan, we have a really unique situation in the area that I work. It's in the Detroit area. So the southeastern part of Michigan is many veterinarians and owners, hospital owners there are okay with each other. Like we have really good relationships, which I know in some areas isn't true, but we have this whole management group and all these owners
Yeah.
get together. It's always been a very open kind of community. So that would be a really good area to kind of, talk to that group and say, we need you on this. How are you, other than going to the conferences, which you told me you're doing, how are you getting the word out to veterinarians so they can join this site?
Well, I did do some digital advertising on AHA and CVMA in Canada.
Okay.
And we just connecting this week with a new marketing person who is veterinarian
Oh,
based
nice.
to help me
Yeah.
with the social media thing because I'm not,
Yeah.
I
Social
mean,
media is hard.
it is hard and it's not my thing. And I did do mailings in Canada just as a test, but I think
Yeah.
because this is, I need advice. So
Right.
this is
Right.
um, mail mostly went into the round filing cabinet under.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we get so much of that every
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
how many hospitals are on it now?
I think we have probably maybe 30 altogether, which is, minimal. Um,
And if you get some of the corporations on board, then they should be able to take you nationally and internationally, right?
yeah,
If you can get it
that was
to
the
work
hope
to
is
sign.
that, and just trying to convince them but they don't, they're always looking at the bottom line. And, although eventually, I mean, we've pushed back any sense of billing for clinics to go on because, at some point the site will have to support itself.
Right,
And
right.
we wanted to make it sort of less than one patient visit a year cost wise, just
Pay
because,
for it. Yeah.
yeah, because you get charged for stuff by Google that you wouldn't even, I haven't, I didn't know anything about, but,
I know. Everybody gets their cut, right?
yes. So that was the design. I mean, if I can get a big time sponsor, somebody, big pharmacy, somebody to, sponsor the site, I'd prefer not to charge veterinarians at all because,
Right, right. So that's kind of your next step, is trying to
yeah.
get Hills or IDEX or somebody to.
Hill, Hills has been very supportive. Zoetis has been supportive as well. They're just trying to figure out how they help, other than just starting to promote and mention that, oh,
Right.
have you seen about vet availability and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. We're working to secure sort of partnerships with instrument companies and x-ray companies so that if you get a deal if you join vet availability on your product. So we're
Okay.
just looking to kind of secure that, because veterinarians, we like stuff, we like
Yeah.
deals.
So
So
not only did you have to develop a website, now you're turning into a fundraiser and a promoter and like you're getting into a lot of hats that you'd probably never considered.
no, I thought I was going to be retired.
I know. We're
But
just
well,
over
you need to do
ambitious,
something.
right?
I'm not that old, so you need to always have something to keep
Yeah.
you.
Well, and this is important. This is a mission.
Yeah.
So what do you, I mean, other than taking some of the burden off of the phone calls and things like that, what do you see as your contribution to the future of veterinary medicine? I know that's a big question, but
It is a big question. Well, certainly, if I could do my bit to help a little bit of the burnout that we suffer from, um, you know, I, I would love to see our licensing bodies allow nurse practitioners, as they do in the human side, because we've got some very brilliant techs that there's a couple of my own that I would have sent to vet school if they were willing to go. We were trying to figure out how we
right.
could
Yeah,
facilitate that for them, but
because they don't
um,
have the money. They'd be excellent veterinarians, but they don't want to spend the time or the money.
yeah, I mean, we were looking at programs to get them financially supported to do that, but a lot of them, they've already gone through school and but they could do so much, and are willing to do so much.
Yeah, and
And
it seems like we keep restricting what they can do more and more.
yeah,
Like even new veterinarians that are like working towards their license and things like that. Like the laws keep, at least in the US, I notice, keep getting more and more restrictive as to what people can do without being a licensed veterinarian, even if they're very well trained. The licensed techs, and they keep taking the things away from them rather than giving them.
I mean, our techs get to do it, and being in critical care and referral ER, they get to do more than maybe some of the techs get to do in
Yes.
the practice.
Hmm.
I used to be brilliant at getting veins. I don't think I could even find a vein anymore to put a catheter in because I
Because
haven't
they're
done it
so
for
good
so
at
long.
it.
But they're so gifted, and when we have students come in, because they do come to learn about dentistry, we try and educate them about treasuring your technicians because they will save you, and
Yeah.
so
That's absolutely true. Yeah, that is a good business tip for veterinarians that are just new to the profession, is to trust and use their LVTs. And I feel, and I'm this might be just my feeling, but I feel that when a lot of veterinarians are coming out of vet school, they've been so terrified about their licensing and about all the things that they want to restrict the technicians. Like they want to do everything themselves, and you know, instead of allowing the technicians to do what they are talented and know how to do. And a lot of the technicians have saved veterinarians. They'll say, "Do you really want to do that, Dr. Capel?" And I'll be like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, this, and this. And I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. You just saved me from making a big mistake. We need to appreciate what they know and use them to their fullest potential, I think.
We are a team, and sometimes people don't understand that quite so much, but it that's one of the things we try and, you know, tell them is that treasure the people around you because they will save you and they take some of the burden that you know, that we have.
Yes, absolutely. You have to trust them and that they have your back too, right?
Yeah,
Because they want the best for the patients too.
they do. And we try
Yeah.
and have some fun. We do try and have some fun.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the dentistry part of it. Like, what advice do you have for general practitioners? I mean, this is getting into medicine now, but I am one of those people that struggled with dentals because we didn't get trained in school. And so I
Yeah.
had to kind of get training over the years and I got good at it. I'm good at it now, but it's a frustrating endeavor if you don't have good training. And I know there's a lot of programs out there now to train us, but tell us kind of your philosophy on that and
Well, I think that, you know, taking teeth out or which is mostly, what has to happen in
what we
primary
do.
practice, and especially cat teeth, right? Mandibular canines in the cat,
I
like
hate
it's a
that. I
scary
know. That's
thing.
my least favorite thing in vet med is cat dentals. I've said that before on the podcast. I hate them.
Love the cat, hate the teeth.
That's why I like that there's dental specialists now. Because there didn't used to be. We had to do everything.
I think finding courses to take where they, either have cadavers not so frequent anymore, but the models that you can work on is so important to be able to do hands-on. And so, the dental forum every year has oodles of labs, but there's also labs in all the big conferences. There's usually a dentist, um, at the conferences. So,
Because it's such a hard thing that we all struggle with, right?
well, and it's really like Guelph, my alma mater, no dentist. They did for a while, and then that didn't work out. So, they're they have the online course, which is gives them something. So they're coming with
Right.
some idea. But when they
Mhm.
come to us, I always say, when you're going for job hunting, make sure that you get some good CE that's provided for you. And if you're expected to do dentistry, then make sure the first thing you do is go and take an extraction course somewhere, because it will take the stress and the pressure off. And most people who work in veterinary dentistry will take calls. Um, you know, we all multitask, and I, have always say to everybody, get on the phone, before something happens, and we have less and less unhappy jaw fractures, that somebody tried to do something. And, the more people get educated, the more people have dental x-rays, because I don't imagine how I could take teeth out without knowing what's there.
Yeah, we did it for years, but it wasn't ideal.
And I always say beware of the little white dog that has periodontal disease and it's got a wiggly molar. Do not pull it without taking an x-ray, even if you
Yeah.
think it might pop out with your fingers. And I would think, in practice, anesthesia-free dentistry has become kind of a problem thing. We had two cases in jaw fracture doing anesthesia-free cleaning, and it's people are afraid of the anesthesia. So, the other thing I say is, we've got the fancy, surgeons that monitor everything for you, but I'm pretty neurotic about anesthesia. My husband tells me it's one of my better features, but we always have a Doppler. I get teased about it, but we have a Doppler on, and we had a young student who was a little bit disbelieving that was necessary. And because I don't, I don't really fun anymore, I get all the critical bad
Yeah, you get
hearts.
the real bad ones that
You know,
somebody else messed up, right? Or didn't
or
was
just
afraid to do.
great to do. We do so many heart patients and seizure patients, and you name it, unstable everything.
Right.
And we had a Doppler on, and we're working away, and everything had been fine, and all of a sudden the Doppler was silent. and you pick up your, face and you look at the monitor, and the monitor was still going, but there was no heart. There was
Yeah,
something.
those monitors, you can't trust them.
No, and you know what? That Doppler saved us because we got that cat back, and
Yeah.
he was great. And my children like to tell me sometimes I'm not cool because I don't have rock and roll or classical music in my surgery where we're working, because I have to have the heartbeat. But I tell you, you know what? Working on somebody's pet, you never want to get cavalier about anesthetic, and you never want to have to make that phone call, right? That
No.
something bad. Clients will forgive you for halting a procedure if things aren't going well. They don't necessarily forgive you if something bad happens. And of course, dentistry is one of the most risky things in general practice. It's weird that way, but it is.
Yeah, it is. And it also, I think it's one of the longest anesthesias. I mean, unless, I guess, if you work in a specialty hospital, you're used to long surgeries, but some of those dentals will be under for hours. And
Which we
especially if you have newer veterinarians that are slow at pulling teeth. And that's what always scared me, is the length of time. So I never hesitated to call an owner and say, look, there's 3 more teeth that need to come out of this dog, but I'm not going to keep him under any longer. I want to recover him. I want him back in a couple weeks and we'll pull more teeth. But
Yeah.
it scares me when they're under for hours and hours and hours, even though, they do okay, but it's just, I think it's one of the longest procedures that we do.
And I think people are afraid to not get it done in one. It's sort of like that last run down the ski hill where you break your leg,
Right.
and it's just like, be prepared to stop. Is what I always say, to be prepared to stop. It's
Yeah,
okay
or
to.
if they're not doing well. I've had a few dentals where the anesthesia is just not, something's not going right. Like, I don't like the way this dog's breathing. I don't like this way this dog's, I just don't like what's going on. And I'll just call the owner and say, look, I don't know what's happening here, but there's something, and I don't want to keep this dog under.
Yeah.
We still have X and Y to do, but I want to recover them, and then we can come back another day, try different drugs or whatever, but something just isn't right, or get them checked out. Like, I had one that wasn't doing right, and it didn't have a heart murmur. We couldn't see anything. But I said, I feel like this dog needs a cardiologist to look it over before we put it under again. And they found something.
Yeah.
And so it's like, there was a reason that dog wasn't doing well.
Well, and I think we need to always go with our gut a little bit. I think we know stuff more than we
Trust
think
your
we
gut.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
If you have a bad feeling, it's probably for a reason.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though sometimes you have bad feelings every day, right? And you have to proceed even though you're having those little feelings. So, all right. So I want to ask you this question because you've been practicing in a critical care and ER and urgent care and all that. What's your advice to veterinarians that are, let's say, within the first part of their career, maybe 5 to 10 years, about having a long career like you and I have? Like, we've been in vet med a long time and we still love it, and we're still, obviously I'm semi-retired and not working full time, but what's your advice so they can stay in this career?
I think you have to be able, well, I mean, I would never suggest that people work like I did when I was, young. We just didn't know about
It was
work-life
different,
balance.
right? We
Yeah,
we weren't as smart as they are now.
that's
That's what I
right.
like to think.
So, work-life balance is a thing, and it's
Right.
important, to take vacations and to, but I think to talk about stuff that, um, you know, to have the freedom to be actually able to talk about things when things go wrong in practice, right? Because those things can be so crushing. And
Yes.
sometimes there's not that freedom to say, boy, this is really, I feel terrible about this happening, and I, need to offload some of this grief or upset or hurt. And I think in my era was sort of rub some dirt in it and keep going, just shrug it
Yeah.
off, right? But I
Shrug it
think,
off and get over it, right? Get over yourself.
and I think you also have to find something that excites you, right? And so going to conferences and learning new stuff, sometimes and having some fun on the way, I think you have to be able to re-engage yourself with veterinary medicine. And I think, having a little bit of work-life balance, finding fun in the day. We have what we call persnickety Thursdays at our
Oh,
practice.
I like that. I haven't heard that one. What's that?
Well, Thursdays is our last sort of day of the week for us for dentistry. And so that's usually when everything comes and then trauma comes. And so usually they're like ugly days because both of us are, myself and my partner, Dr. Danny DeRose, we're both in and all the techs are in. So it's a happening place. And so usually we have, somebody gets to choose the lunch menu. So we always order in lunch and, we try and have some fun and, do when we do, Christmas thing, we were supposed to go bowling this year for Christmas to do something fun and, silly. So I think it's just trying to find the joy in veterinary medicine. Because when you're at that 10-year mark, things start to, get heavy, I think, in terms
Well,
of
because you've had
routine.
time to have negative things happen. I think one of the things that I like to talk to veterinarians about so much is that, if something bad happens, that's kind of by design. Like that's part of our job
Yeah.
is to deal with the bad things. And to think that you're the only one that's ever made a mistake. You're the only one that's ever got a client angry at you. You're the only one that's ever got a board complaint. You're the only one that's ever failed. I think that burden gets so heavy because we don't open up to other veterinarians that look, it's happened to all of us. Like I got fired from my first job. I've killed patients. I can vividly tell you what I've done wrong over the years, and that's okay because that's part of it.
Yeah.
But being okay with sharing that, and that's part of the reason I do what I do now, is sharing that with other people and being like, you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be infallible, you don't have to be brilliant to do this job. You just have to care about it and love it and be passionate about it and continue to learn. That's the key to having, this long, fun, and veterinarians are a blast. Like we're fun people. So
We
just like you
are.
said.
Yes, we are. My husband, who is a lawyer, came with us to a critical care convention many, many, many years ago. And I had never seen him drunk before.
Oh no.
And he said, if I was with lawyers, he says, I would have been drinking coffee. And I said, well, I hardly believe that, but
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but when you can create that camaraderie within your practice is really important because that's when you can support each other when something bad does happen. If one of my patients dies and now I have to call the owner, having that team that really knows me and understands me and has had fun with me, that's part of the recovery process. That's part of getting through it and helping the clients through it. And yeah, I love that you are doing this business that's designed to help us be less stressed, but also that you have that philosophy that, we have to create fun. Get on the floor and play with the puppies when you can. When something recovers, celebrate an animal that you thought was going to die and now it's doing great. Have a celebration, like be into that because that's what this is all about.
part of and I didn't mention this before, but part of the vet availability thing that I'm doing is we are developing a video series called Great Saves.
Oh, I
And
love that.
this is if somebody has the presence of mind to film something that's happening and owners are okay with, releasing,
Sharing it, yeah.
and it's something that is like, wow, when we were at our best and luck is with us and look what we can do. We had a doodle at the clinic and it was catching a smallish ball, like a squishy ball, and it lodged completely obstructing the airway.
Oh, I've seen
And
those videos.
the dog was going to suffocate. And it was a relatively quiet moment. And one of the techs had the presence of mind of filming it, of the ER doctor twiddling his fingers in behind the ball. And then the ball pops out and the dog takes a deep breath and then he's wagging his tail because it's a doodle.
Um,
And, we got that on film and I thought, I want the public to see what we can do and how we
yes,
enjoy in what we do, because so often we're accused of just being about the money.
right.
And
And it's so
so,
untrue.
yeah, so I want people to see the stuff that we can do. We had a hit by car dog that was devastating for the owner, was horrifically injured. And she was shipped down she was stabilized initially way, way up north, and they shipped her down. And in the morning, surgery and critical care and neurology, everybody was meeting, rounding about this dog. And her face, I got involved because her face was all the soft tissue was pretty much detached from her skull. It was like
Oh,
horrendous.
yeah.
And she's wagging her tail and trying to lick me. And I'm like, oh my,
Oh,
don't do that. It's bad.
right. Oh,
And that
wow.
dog, she had a broken pelvis, both her front legs were broken, all sorts of injuries. And we have sort of, we capped the bill at one point. I shouldn't tell anybody out loud, really, but we did. And
Right. Because it
we,
was such a tragedy.
but she, the last time we saw her come in, she was wagging her tail, and you wouldn't know. We did some root canals for free, but you wouldn't know other than the fact that she's got some shorter teeth and some missing teeth, but she looks normal as a normal dog, and we managed to document a little bit of that, but I want people to see what we can do and see us maybe in a slightly different light, which then maybe, maybe it changes people's perspective a little bit about what veterinary medicine is and about what we do and how
Right.
hard we
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they have a appreciation for that. And we need to appreciate it. We need to be like all over that and be like, look how awesome we are. This is great. Yeah. Because there are so many. I mean, I remember all the things that happened really bad to me, but I remember those miracle cases where you were like, oh, I brought a bird home one time because it was so gonna die. I just knew it was gonna die, but I'm like, I guess I'm gonna take it home with me because I don't want to spend the night at the hospital. And I could literally like lay it on my bathroom counter to give it fluids and give it treatments. And the next morning it was up and it was eating, and I was just like, no way. Like, did the angels come in at night and like cure you? But those are the ones you remember because you're like, oh, I never thought that that
Yep.
bird would be fine. And it was. And and it could have just been luck. It might not have been any skill that I had, but just that celebration that's why we're doing the hard stuff.
Yep.
Because the good stuff happens in the hard.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. Well, this has been a super fun conversation. Tell me what I didn't ask you that we didn't talk about that you think we might want to,
I
or did
think
we cover it all?
I think we covered it all. I mean, I'm, really have always in my career been approachable. And if, people think that there's things that should be added or something that should be, a little different about the site, or, I am all ears because,
Okay, so tell them where to find you and find the site. And if their hospital's interested in being added,
yeah.
like what do they do? Give me all the details, and I'll put it out on the I'll put it in the notes, and then I'll also I'll try to contact my group and let them know about it so they can get on.
So the site's www.vetavailability.com. Um, there's a info at vetavailability.com, which is sort of the general email.
Okay.
My email is Sharon French DVM at vetavailability.com.
Okay.
And
And
um,
people can email you if they need to or they
sure they
want to.
can. Yeah. And then, to go on the site, if they right on the homepage down in the one corner, it says add your clinic.
Oh,
And
so it's super easy to do.
you just click it. Yeah, because we're working with my brain. So it had to be easy. So
Yeah, yeah, we're
the
not
bottom,
computer programmers, right?
so you click on the add your clinic, and on the site too, there's some videos for people about, what the site's about and the statistics, but all the statistics about holding on to people and our suicide rate and, all the things that people aren't aware of. But
All the things that we're trying to change, and this will certainly add to that.
well,
I've always said that it's not, I mean, we definitely need to work on our minds, and that's why I do the coaching that I do, and I wrote my book and things because I want to help vets fix that part of it. But we also have to change the way we deliver veterinary medicine. I
yeah.
think that's part of it, and I think what you're doing is one of those tools that's going to help us change the way we deliver what we do.
Well, if it helps in some small part, which I believe it will, if we can just get enough clinics on, then I feel pretty good about
I
what
think
we
it
can.
absolutely will. I mean, I know I've got my techs and my receptionist calling all the time to try to figure out where to send a pet for overnight care. Which specialist can see them in the next week because they have this horrendous thing that needs surgery, or
Yeah.
what dental specialist we can send them to because they need a root canal. And like, we spend so much time making those phone calls that I think that in and of itself, if this works, and I'm sure it will, that's going to change everybody's life for the better.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for.
I love it. Well, congratulations. It's an awesome thing.
I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
thank you for
So, and
the
thanks for being on the podcast. It was fun. I'm glad I ran into you at VMX and asked you to come on. You told me about your thing. Okay. Well, we'll stay in touch and keep after this. And I wish you lots of luck and have fun in Las Vegas. Everybody go see Sharon. If you're listening to this, if you're going to Vegas, go check her out and you can talk to her in person.
Thank
Because you'll
you.
be there. You'll be manning the booth, right?
I
That's
will
how I
be.
met you.
I will be.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. This is Dr. Sharon French, vetavailability.com, right?
Correct.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a beautiful week, everyone. Bye. Bye,
Bye.
Sharon.